Hello and welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that knows that just because you've been somewhere doesn't mean that you have to stay there. I am your host, Patrick Kaiser. Right off the bat, a major apology for getting this out late. It has been a busy week and I fell behind. Earlier this week, my team and I were in Denver, Colorado for Crystal Media's EVOVLE conference. What an amazing event! There were some tremendous speakers and a lot of great information shared throughout the conference. I think some of my biggest takeaways were concerning the usage of data and the encouragement for retailers to really take an analytical approach to their business. Deep dive into the numbers and see what's selling, and then double down on those categories and those items. This reminds me of Kathy Donovan Wagner's, the Retail Mavens, concept of your never out ofs. These things that are such great sellers within your store that you'd be costing yourself sales if you ran out of stock in them. So understanding your data, knowing what's selling, knowing where your margins are, making sure you always have those products, doubling down on things like that because that's what your customers are coming in for. I also loved hearing about case studies from successful retailers and what they've done to grow their business. I think that is so valuable to look at because it's one thing to talk in theory about how to grow revenue, about margin building, about doing other things, but to look at what actual stores have done within the last 5 years or so hits differently. It allows you to take real and practical strategies away and think about how you would implement something similar into your own business. A great example of this is what Dane Cohen highlighted from Girl Tribe in Charlotte. He talked about their 4-point strategy to grow their business, and they've grown from having one store to really having a gigantic presence throughout Charlotte and having that presence felt throughout the whole Southeast. And it's not about implementing all 4 points right away, but it's looking at this model and seeing where could I start. I also really took a lot away from Donald Miller's presentation too. He was one of the keynote speakers. Not only about clarifying your goal statements, but also focusing on answering your customer's problem. He talked about how having a refined goal statement allows your team to be much more focused on what they're trying to accomplish. If it does not fit within the goal statement, it's extraneous. The more that you do that's working towards your goal statement, the more you're pushing your mission forward. And the more others will understand and feel that mission and know you for those purposes. And his concept of helping solve your customer's problem is so relevant. And this little twist on how you think about things that can really make a complete difference. Merchandising items together as great gifts for Mother's Day or Mom loves blank helps solve the problem of not knowing what to get someone. We live in a society where people have what they need, or at least they think so. Everyone is so hard to shop for because anytime they want something, they can buy it. But positioning something as something to help solve a problem lets you see through a different lens. It can open up your eyes to ways to cross-merchandise things, to pair things uniquely. Suddenly, you're not just selling a type of product, you're selling things to people who like a certain type of product, which opens up the doors much wider. If you were at the conference, thank you to those that came and spoke to me there. It was so great meeting you in person. It was honestly very validating as well. Last year at EVOLVE, we had just launched the organization Heart on Main Street about 4 months before. We were so new, so green. No one knew who we were or what we were wanting to do. This year, so many people came up and said that they follow Heart on Main Street and follow our Main Street Mondays. They've attended our webinars. They listened to this podcast. It really felt like we were actually accomplishing something and not just maybe screaming out into the void. So many people said that they wanted to be involved and help us out, which is just amazing. For right now, if you would like to be involved or to help out Heart on Main Street, just spread the word. We have great educational content for retailers. We have webinars once a month with some of the industry's best minds. Let other retailers know about the organization so they can benefit from this information too. Later this year, we will have other ways to get involved, but for now, you can really help by just spreading the word. If you're involved in your chamber, your merchant groups, your downtown development association, or downtown business association, or really any other business organization, let other members know about our organization and the things that we have to offer. That would be so helpful. There was also a silent auction to benefit Heart on Main Street at the EVOVLE conference. I was so excited about this, but also so nervous. I really wanted it to go well, and holy smokes, did it. We auctioned off services from some fantastic companies like One Shop Retail, The Savvy Shopkeeper, Retail Mavens, Capital Commerce, Kaiser & Bender, not related, and Whizbang Retail Training. We had fun items like a movie date night package and Heart on Main Street branded Stanleys. In total, we raised over $10,000. I was floored, like giddy from excitement if you can't tell. The money that we raised will go directly to helping retailers recover after losing their store in a natural disaster. This is really fortuitous timing because unfortunately we've seen some devastating tornadoes this past week in Oklahoma and Nebraska. The town of Sulphur, Oklahoma was hit especially hard. A tornado tore through their historic downtown and dozens of businesses were lost in a matter of minutes. Heart on Main Street is launching a fundraising campaign to help these businesses recover after the event and rebuild their stores and remain a part of their community. If you would like to donate to help these areas, you can do so at www.heartonmainstreet.org. Any amount that you can donate would be appreciated. You might think that $10 or $20 isn't going to do much, but if enough people donate, we can do a whole lot together. So please, if you are within means, consider making a donation to help these communities get back on their feet. Now, for today's episode, we are going to be back out on the road for a Main Street Monday. Well, for this visit, I actually flew, but you get the point. We are traveling again today. Today, we're going to talk about a town that was recommended to me by really no less than probably a dozen people. When I talk to people about their favorite downtowns that they know of, this has easily been the most common recommendation. I am, of course, talking about Franklin, Tennessee. This Nashville suburb calls itself America's favorite Main Street district. When I read that on Franklin's website, I balked. Yes, this town has been highly recommended to me, and yes, everyone says that I will love it there, but I've seen some pretty amazing Main Street districts, and all of a sudden I felt a sense of protection for my other Main Street communities. They're great too, right? Who's calling this America's favorite, huh? I needed to see it to believe it. When I arrived in Franklin, I was impressed. There's a lot to like about the downtown area. It was founded in 1799, so Franklin serves as kind of a time capsule of American history. Every part of the downtown area tells a story, from it being the site of 2 battles during the American Civil War to the establishment of the Franklin Theater in the 1930s and this iconic Gray's Pharmacy sign that hangs over Main Street since the 1950s. And then there's more modern constructions that show an ever-evolving presence of the town. As I've mentioned before in other episodes, these are some elements that I absolutely love about a historic downtown. I used to be a history teacher, and so the history of a town really hits home to me. Something like the old movie theater awning is just an iconic statement piece of a downtown. And what I especially loved about Franklin's is that they've relatively recently refurbished and renovated this so that it remains a part of the downtown. Like many other local theaters, it actually closed down during the early 2000s due to rising rents and waning attendance, and it just kind of not being modern. But the community recognized the importance and worked to modernize the theater and make sure it remained a part of Franklin. It reopened in 2011, and because of that, there's been a local acting troupe that has sprung up to perform there, in addition to movies and musicians coming in and having plays there. So many of these classic theaters and towns have gone by the wayside, so it's inspiring to see one that actually is seeing a renaissance. Franklin is probably the oldest city that I've had the opportunity to visit so far in my Main Street Monday tour, and you can feel Franklin's history everywhere you go along Main Street, from the Civil War Memorial to the historic buildings. Yet Franklin has done a tremendous job of not being controlled by that history. This town has developed businesses to position the downtown as a magnet for shoppers, not just Civil War buffs. Franklin has allowed itself to be a historical city with a modern appeal. A great example of this juxtaposition can be found in the retail store Tin Cottage. Since 1999, the store has been in a historic building with these great exposed brick walls. Yet with its teal-lettered logo and neon pink happy sign, Tin Cottage has a fresh, bright, and joyful atmosphere that screams anything but historic. Run by a husband and wife team with their children working part-time, Tin Cottage carries a fantastic collection of gifts, home decor items, and apparel with splashes of adult humor spread throughout the store. It's a beautiful store that sits so well within its space, it's like it's always been there. And 25 years for an independent retail store is almost an eternity, so the longevity there is fantastic. They have beautiful products and displays filled with national vendors, but to me, what really stole the show is the products featuring Franklin and Tennessee. From the puzzles to mugs, tea towels, pillows, servingware, ornaments, and more, the hometown, the volunteer state, and local artisans are represented with pride. Even Dolly Parton and Taylor Swift have carved out their sections as Tennessee legends within the store. These elements dominate the front part of the store, the lakefront property, if you will. These are elements that Tin Cottage wants you to see and experience within their store. I love a store that shows off its town and its state pride, not in a touristy 36 varieties of a neon t-shirt that says the name of the town on it kind of way, but in a way that demonstrates the love and pride that they have for their area, and this was a perfect encapsulation of that. As I continued to explore, there were many other excellent stores in downtown Franklin. White's Mercantile is another standout retail store along Franklin's Main Street. They have a few other locations, but I think the downtown Franklin is somewhat of a flagship for them. At White's Mercantile, they combine fantastic visual merchandising with a wide variety of categories to satisfy their customers' needs. It creatively combined seasonal items, gifts, home accessories, men's and women's apparel, children's items, and stationery in a way that did not seem overcrowded or overbearing. I've been to many stores where they're just trying to do too much, and to the point that the store kind of gets lost along the way. White's Mercantile is filled with eye-catching displays that help the customers navigate from one category to another and elicit these wow factors along the way. I was in Franklin a little before Easter, so on this occasion, the space was filled with spring flowers and pastels and Easter bunny decorations. They really did a wonderful job. The intriguing display of historical and modern can also be found in the types of stores that Franklin has to offer. Franklin boasts two eco-focused stores within their historic downtown, Rooted by Yarrow Acres and The Green Room. Inside Rooted, there's this great neon sign that proudly proclaims it as Franklin's Little Plant Shop. Here you can find houseplants as well as plant-themed gifts and books and fashion accessories. Rooted's product selection and cross-merchandising provides a great example of a retailer centered around the concept that they don't just sell plants, they sell products to people who like plants. I had mentioned this earlier, but I really think this is such a huge thing for retailers to do and implement within their stores. You don't just sell gifts, you sell things to people that like gifts. It opens up your horizons much larger as to how you can merchandise things and how you can bring things together to really solve answers for your customers, to bring things more to the forefront, to cross-merchandise, to put things together in different ways. The atmosphere of the store was really quite serene. The plants provide a calming effect that you really don't notice that's lacking in other stores, but becomes so evident when you walk into Rooted by Euro Acres. But then intermixed throughout, there are these jabs of plant humor and jokes specifically for plant lovers. So again, having this whole concept based around people that love plants and what can they find there, knowing their niche, knowing their customer, and appealing towards them. Meanwhile, the green room focuses on earth-friendly and sustainable gifts and home accessories. Here, customers can find everything from candles that are made in-house to dishware, clothing, and home accessories made from materials like bamboo and other sustainable materials. The entire store was dedicated to products that are non-toxic and chemical-free and made from materials that do not hurt the environment in their production. It was really an innovative and forward-thinking store concept that I loved seeing in Franklin. Conservation and sustainability are very big motivating factors in shopping, especially for younger generations. So while this was the first store that I've seen of this specific concept, I do not think it'll be the last. And these two green stores within the downtown area of Franklin are a welcome surprise and evidence of Franklin's consistent evolution as a downtown business environment. Another store that I absolutely loved was called Rock, Paper, Scissors. From the name and logo, which kind of resembles the symbols from the show Squid Game, if you're familiar, I was not really sure what I would find at Rock, Paper, Scissors. However, when I walked in, it became immediately evident. Rock, Paper, Scissors is a party store. More than that, it's a party in a store. Right away, you're confronted with a bright pink wall and sequined streamers hanging from the ceiling. There's upbeat music that propels you into the store to look around and find the theme of your dreams. Every theme imaginable was present for parties. As it happened to be, it was a few days before my daughter's first birthday. We were throwing a first rodeo party. My wife and I had been to several stores local to us to find supplies for the event, but we kept striking out. There were barn-themed items, but no horses and cowgirls. Maybe it's because they're more rare, or maybe it's because they're not popular in the Chicago area. Who knows? But walking into Rock, Paper, Scissors, I struck gold. Cowboy-themed items. Check. There were bachelorette themes, sports themes, rainbows, flowers, dogs, cats, farm animals, bees, fruits, themes by color, themes by pattern, almost anything that I can imagine they had covered. They had wrapping paper, balloon installations, you name it. If you were throwing a party, Rock, Paper, Scissors had what you needed to make it the party that you imagined. I loved it. There are a dozen stores that I visited and fell in love with that I won't have time to talk about today, but the diversity of retail in Franklin I found to be extremely important. There were more than just gift stores and boutiques. There were stores for all parts of the community, stores for niche interests, stores for tourists and locals, stores in new buildings, stores in historic buildings. The wide appeal made it possible for shoppers to find what it appealed to them, to find things that they didn't even know that they were interested in, to find their tribe. Franklin calls itself America's favorite Main Street because it has a little bit of everything that makes a great Main Street. There are diverse shopping opportunities supplemented by the town's pride and history represented through its stores and events. It's a walkable downtown where retailers collaborate to complement each other's businesses and help each other grow. It's no shock that Franklin is thriving. Personally, I don't know if I'm ready to call it my favorite Main Street. I'm not sure what I would call my favorite so far. I've been fortunate enough to visit so many amazing communities that are doing some incredible things for their independent retail community. However, Franklin was pretty great, and I would definitely rank it up there with some of my favorites and call it a must visit while in the Nashville area. Next week, we're going to be out on the road again to visit the town of Waukon, Iowa. Waukon is a community that's going through a resurgence in their downtown, and it was so fun to visit this retail community and watch it grow and evolve essentially before my eyes. So that will be next week, but today I must bid you adieu. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Actually, if you are enjoying this podcast, please leave a review. It really helps the podcast grow and reach new people. The reviews that have been made so far are so flattering, so thank you to those that have written something. Even if you don't like it, let me know. Let me know what I can work on to make this a better podcast for you. This episode was written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Kaiser. Have a great week, stay safe, shop small, and I'll see you next time.